Welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about diffraction, right? Diffraction, for what we need it for, really isn't that crazy of an idea. Basically what it is as a wave, a lot of times we talk about it in terms of light, but it could be any wave. Sound does it, and other types of waves do it. As wave travels through a barrier, right? So you have a solid thing here, there's a barrier in between, or it tries to go around a barrier, it will bend a little bit. It'll kind of curve in a different way than refraction, however. Now, let's take a look. So let's say we have an opening right here. So this is any solid barrier. This could be a wall. This could be just a plate. It doesn't matter, okay? As waves are coming through, okay, each of these fully solid lines are our wave fronts. As the waves enter this barrier, this opening, right, the waves will start spreading out. Okay? Now, in terms of what you need to know for diffraction, honestly, really it's basically this picture. Right? There are other kind of other looks we can have for diffraction, but we'll get to those on another video. Now, one thing that is interesting about this picture that you need to know is how much the wave diffracts depends on two things: the size of the opening and the wavelength of the wave. Okay, so if the wavelength of the wave is much smaller than the size of the opening, there will be no diffraction at all. Okay, think about a doorway, a regular doorway, and light, right? Light just passes straight on through. There are no diffraction effects from light due to a doorway. The reason being is the wavelength for a regular beam of visible light is about 1 times 10, or 4 to 7 times 10 to the negative 7 meters, right? About 4 to 7 10 millionths of a meter. Whereas a door would be just about a full meter, right? It's a huge difference, right? So there's not going to be any diffraction there. However, if we were to shrink the size of the door to be closer to the size of that wavelength, or make the wavelength bigger, we'll get more diffraction, right? Here's another example for a door, right? Let's kind of paint a picture in your head for a second, all right? Let's say you're typing away, you're doing whatever you got to do. All of a sudden you're a little hungry, right? But you're listening to some like fresh jams and you don't want to put headphones in, so you turn up the volume and you walk to your fridge and you get some food, okay? When you're in the kitchen getting some food, what part of the music do you normally hear most clearly from the music coming from your room? Well, it'd be the bass, right? The bass, the lower frequencies, have a longer wavelength. Those longer wavelengths will be greater than the size of the door, right? When you have a small opening and a large wavelength, you're going to get big diffraction effects, right? So that those lower frequency bass waves are able to diffract more readily, spreading out among a greater area, whereas the higher frequency treble waves might diffract a little bit because they're a little bit closer to the size of the door, but for the most part they're just going to kind of go straight through, right? So it's just a kind of a neat thing that diffraction does. And one more cool thing about diffraction is by understanding diffraction, we've been able to show that light behaves like a wave, right? Sometimes it behaves like a particle, sometimes it behaves like a wave. Diffraction shows that it behaves like a wave. What we've also been able to do is show that electrons and other particles like that also have wave-like properties, right? You can get electrons to diffract and whatnot. So it's pretty cool. It's a much broader topic than how I'm getting into. I'll talk a little bit more about that in another video, but this I just want to give a basic introduction to diffraction, talk about how the size of the wavelength and the size of the opening and the relationship to one another is what determines how much diffraction there actually is. Big opening, small wavelength, no diffraction. Big wavelength, small opening, lots of diffraction. Okay, so hopefully that was clear, and I'll see you next time.